Today, we're talking about getting more clients because when you're running your own interior design or decorating business, can sometimes feel like everyone around you is getting the work except for you. You hear about a designer who's just landed a new project, someone you know's picked up a couple of new clients through referrals. Another designer just always seems to be flat out, doesn't she? And inevitably, you start thinking, well, where is my next client actually going to be coming from? I'm a little bit concerned. So today, I want to look at what you can actually do to create more opportunities for yourself rather than sitting back and hoping the next inquiry just lands in the inbox. And stay with me until the end because I'm going to give you a couple of different ways that you can start putting yourself out there in front of potential clients, including some that have got absolutely nothing to do. In fact, none of them have anything to do with posting more on Instagram. But first, I want to tell you about something that's actually happening right now for this fabulous decorator friend of mine. I've recently been speaking with an interior decorator called Chloe Benek, and Chloe runs her own interior decoration and design business, Designs by Chloe. So Chloe wanted to generate more work, so she approached a kitchen company and offered something that complemented what they were already doing, which is finishes, selections, and colour consultations for their customers. And that one relationship's now generated, I think she said, about five colour finishes consultations in about a month. Five consultations from one relationship. And I think there's something really important in that because it wasn't a client just stumbling across Chloe online. She actually went out and created this opportunity for herself. So let's just have a look at how you can start doing the same thing or something similar that suits you. Let's talk about what Chloe did. Now, one thing I want to say about Chloe is she's not trying to become a kitchen designer, which is fine. She's actually a bit like me in that respect. I don't want to sit there and design kitchens in CAD or SketchUp. In fact, it's not my superpower and it's not hers either. We just struggle to do that successfully. So, the kitchen company relationship is perfect. Now, Chloe recognised there was something, though, that she could bring to this kitchen company. So they do the design, but she'll bring in the colour finishes and cohesion. That's her superpower. Now, the kitchen company didn't have somebody providing that particular support to their clients. So that's an important thing. Some kitchen companies do have that in-house interior designer. But Chloe approached them. So essentially, here's something I can do that can help your clients. And that one piece of initiative has led to, I think, like I was saying, 5 consultations within a month. Now, think about the difference here. She didn't sit at home and hope a homeowner happened to discover her. She's identified a business that already had the type of people she could potentially help coming through their doors. And she created a reason for that business to introduce those people to her. So that's really smart visibility. And there's genuine value in what she's offering because a kitchen, as we know, it just doesn't live on its own in isolation. A kitchen company might do an absolutely beautiful job designing, say, the cabinetry, but what happens when that kitchen meets the rest of the house? What's happening with the flooring? What's happening with the wall colours? The adjoining living room off the kitchen, open plan maybe? The existing timber tones, how do they work? The furniture you've got, the lighting, the overall feeling in the home? I've actually been brought into a house myself where this had gone completely wrong. The kitchen company had created a very icy cool modern white kitchen. Now, right next to that was a much warmer living room that this couple had. I'm putting some images up as we speak. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the kitchen finishes really didn't match the rest of the aesthetic of this client's house. They love warm aesthetics, world beat type furniture. And this was causing the client to wonder why this new kitchen wasn't bringing the joy that it's supposed to have brought. It's because the kitchen company had no real idea, I'm sorry to say, about colour, specifically the errors in mixing warm and cool undertones and colours. And that could be a problem, and it was here. So there wasn't necessarily anything catastrophically wrong with either space, but together they just didn't belong in the same house. So there was no cohesion, and that's exactly where a decorator or designer's eye can be incredibly valuable. You're looking beyond the individual benchtop or cabinet colour and asking, how does this decision relate to everything else in the home? So Chloe isn't competing with the kitchen company at all. She's actually adding another layer of value to what they're already providing. So this kitchen company gets to offer its clients additional expertise that they don't own. The client gets help in creating a more cohesive home holistically, and Chloe gets introduced to people who are already actively investing money in their homes. So guess what happens when that same client wants to decorate the rest of the home? They're going to call Chloe. Now everybody wins here. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, well, that's great for Chloe, but I don't really want to work with kitchen companies and I don't want to just do their finishes. Fine. You don't have to do that. The lesson here isn't that, every decorator or designer listening needs to start approaching kitchen companies, but the lesson is to find the businesses and environments that make sense for you. And I've done exactly that myself. In 2025, I approached a Sydney furniture store that I love called Orient House. Now, this made real sense for me, what I do. I love African design. I love global inspired furniture. I love beautiful pieces collected from, different places around the world. So a store like Orient House, who provides that type of furniture and furnishings, really felt like an environment where I could genuinely contribute something. So I approached them and I approached them about creating an event. I called it Style Safari and I gave a presentation using the store and its products as part of the experience. And this is what I love about this kind of visibility. I was right there in front of potential new clients. They weren't scrolling past a photograph of my work, getting lost in a feed on Instagram. They could hear me talking about design. They could see how I looked at the products. They could understand how I put things together. So it all worked beautifully. They could also ask me questions. They could experience my personality and how I think as a decorator. And when the presentation finished, the conversations were plentiful. They really were. People stayed around. They talked to me. They asked me questions. There were actual conversations happening about their homes, which is really cool. And I've had a really great client come from that one event. So when I talk about this stuff, I'm not suggesting something I haven't tried myself. This isn't the first time I've done it. I've seen what can happen when you physically put yourself in the room with people, give them an opportunity to experience your expertise. So I didn't let the connection end there. I also had a postcard that I put together at the event with a QR code linking to a free download on my website. So anybody who wanted more from me could scan it. They could opt in. They could receive the download and they could then join my email list. And the opt-in was really important. Now, I'm not talking about taking somebody else's customer database and automatically just adding those people to your mailing list. We can't do that. But the store has a relationship with its customers and can invite them to the event, which is important. Then they've met me and they've heard me speak. And if they want to continue hearing from me further, they could choose to come into my world through that free download, because somebody might love your presentation but still not need an interior designer or decorator that afternoon, obviously. But perhaps they're now on your email list and they see another project you've done that they really love and they hear from you, say, once a month. Maybe 6 months later, they're finally ready to do their home. Or if not them, they'll tell a friend about you that, you might be someone they can reach out to. The relationship can continue after the event. So my question for you, though, is what is your version of that? So this is the question. I want you to ask yourself, where is your Orient House? Not literally. I don't want everybody listening to this one ringing Orient House tomorrow, of course. But what I mean is, what business makes sense for you? What environment naturally fits your style? So your expertise and the clients that you want to meet, doing what Chloe's done or what I'm doing may not be your cup of tea. Maybe you're passionate about contemporary lighting, so it could be a lighting showroom. Maybe art central to your work. Could you approach a gallery or framing business? Believe me, I've done that too. And I got clients from a framing talk at a framing shop. If you do like designing kitchens, perhaps do a talk at a tile shop or an independent retail shop who supplies, beautiful kitchen tapware, etc. If speaking alone scares you too, how about teaming up with a builder or someone who's complementary to your service so the pressure isn't all on you, but there isn't direct competition in the room? That's another idea. Maybe you specialize in helping people downsize, something completely different. What businesses are already serving these people and how can you get in front of them? Maybe you're brilliant with color and finishes like Chloe. And perhaps the kitchen company does make sense. So the point isn't to just, we're not saying copy Chloe, and it isn't to just copy me, but it's copying the thinking that I'd like you to think about. Find the place where your expertise and someone else's customers naturally overlap, and then ask, what could we create together that would genuinely benefit the both of us? That's how relationships are really built. So turn the event into something bigger, I would say. So there's another opportunity there is if you're going to do this, capture the event, obviously on video. You don't necessarily need a professional film crew. You could just ask a friend with a decent mobile phone to get some footage. So you're presenting, holding samples, people listening, people asking questions, conversations afterwards. Then think about where that content could actually become useful. Maybe you could send the footage to a good editor on somewhere like Upwork, which isn't even that expensive, and have them create some polished short form videos for you. Maybe parts of the presentation could become an email you send out to your list, could be a blog post, or perhaps you show the footage to another showroom and say, well, here's something I've done before. Do you think it would be a benefit to you if we created something like this for your customers? We can tweak the whole angle based on the product. And that's what I mean by repurposing this content. And I can give you another real example of that type of thing from my Style Safari event. I actually doled out on professional videographer for this Style Safari. I got it filmed. Personally, I'm pretty Instagram weary though these days. I didn't feel any great need to chop the whole thing up and put it into the feed because Instagram wasn't really the point of this event. The event was the point. Getting in front of real people was the point. Having conversations was the point. Building relationships was the point. Getting people to genuinely want to hear from me, to opt into the email list was the point. And ultimately, I am getting clients from this type of activity. Now, the video, though, itself has actually gone on to have another life. So I've developed my Turnkey Design Success program recently, and I've put the Style Safari presentation inside the program as a case study for my students. We've got one portion about live events. If you want to know any more about that program, by the way, you can just send me an email at askadam@turnkeydesign.success.com, and we can have a chat about what's happening in your world. But this is where I admire what Chloe's doing, to get back to her. She's taking initiative. She's getting in front of people. She's building relationships, and she's giving people the opportunity to experience how skilled she is at her craft. So to me, this is front of the line stuff. Imagine two designers. You've seen one designer's Instagram, lovely work, looks great, but you've got no idea what they're like as a person. You've never met them. The other designer you've actually watched give a 20-minute presentation, 45-minute presentation with a Q&A maybe. They've taught you something about your home you hadn't considered. You've asked them a question and they've given you a really thoughtful answer that you've thought, oh, what a great idea. You've watched how they put finishes together so they can do it. You've spoken to them afterwards. You're developing trust. Which one feels less risky to contact if you actually do want to hire a decorator or a designer? Guess who? That's what happens when somebody experiences your expertise live. They've met you. They've heard you speak and they've watched you solve a problem. They've got a sense of your personality. That's really important. They've started to trust you, as I was just saying. That's really different from being just another image on an Instagram screen. Now, all of this, Adam, is outside my comfort zone. I don't think I can do that. And here's something I've experienced when talking about strategies like this to some designers in the past. Sometimes the response is, oh, that's just too hard. They won't want me there. Why would a showroom work with me? I'm sure they've got their own people. I wouldn't know what to say, or it's just I don't like doing any public speaking, and that's okay. You don't have to love public speaking, and you don't have to go on a radio show. You don't have to copy what Chloe's doing, which is really to put herself out there. And you don't have to copy me with the Style Safari event. But what we can't continually say is that we need strategies to get more clients and then reject every strategy that requires us to take some initiative and do something outside of our comfort zone. At some point, those two things don't go together. I desperately need more clients, but I don't want to do anything that makes me uncomfortable. Okay, but then something has to give. There isn't a magical Instagram reel that's going to remove the need to build relationships or secret strategies some coach has that will require no effort from you, but just get the clients through the door. So find your version of getting in front of people. Maybe it's an event, maybe it's a partnership, maybe it's a talk, maybe it's approaching, 5 different businesses. It doesn't have to be Chloe's strategy, it doesn't have to be mine, but it has to be something. So final thoughts. So when somebody asks, how do I get more interior design clients? My question back is, what are you doing to create opportunities for people to experience your expertise? Face to face, Chloe's generated around 5 colour consultations from just one kitchen company relationship. I had a client come from my Style Safari event. These aren't hypothetical ideas, they're examples of what can happen when you take some initiative. So visibility isn't just obviously posting to who knows. Sometimes visibility is walking through somebody else's door and saying, hey, I got an idea. What if we did something together? They might say no. Somebody else might say yes. But if you want clients, you have to create opportunities for people to find you and understand you and experience what you're capable of. And we all need to feel comfortable in some way, shape, and form in doing that, building relationships, teaching people something. It also builds your email list, shows people what you actually do. Then let Instagram amplify it if that's what's useful to you, because 5 meaningful conversations with people who've experienced your expertise could be worth far more than 5,000 passive views on a reel. So I'll leave with you this. Where is your Orient house? What's the place that fits you? Where's your tile shop or lighting shop, whatever that is? Find it. And instead of waiting for them to approach you, perhaps it's time you could consider approaching them. So on that note, I wish you all the best with this. I hope that you got some value out of this and can see some ideas for yourself. But until next time, I'll see you in the next episode of Turnkey Design Talk. Bye for now.